I would like to talk a little bit about a fully produced event versus seminars, webinars. So I was following somebody on LinkedIn and they were saying, we did 600 events this month. And I literally thought to myself, wait, what? How is that even possible? Well, their definition of an event was about a 30-minute webinar, and they were doing like 4 a day or whatever, because I kept trying to do the math
Right.
going, holy smokes. So I do think that in our world, for proper planning and for what we talk about with Toolkit, we're talking about an event, meaning it's not a team call of your staff. It's not necessarily, instructional training. It's not a webinar for training purposes. It's a collective, gathering. And so people have said to us, we just want to make sure it doesn't look like Zoom. It needs to look and feel differently on the screen. So one of the benefits of using a production company that I found that's been so critical is in the branding, the background, the how do you highlight the speakers, the lower third with their name, the fly in, stinger video to break up and get people excited, the music that you can use, the in-studio production so that you have the host in studio and you feel like there is some kind of, again, physical presence happening at that moment. So thoughts on, I see that's all the value I see of using a production company, but thoughts on elaborating on that or just the capabilities to make it not look like Zoom or Teams?
I think one of the planners that we worked with said she had to transition from being an event planner to being a TV producer. And it really is that. It really is being very thoughtful and mindful of every second, every minute of what's coming across. And it's creating kind of the tightest package that you can put out with the least disruptions to the audience, with the most visual stimulation, and the least amount of disruptions. And that's what production can do for you, and we can add a lot of fun, like you were talking about, with music or with graphics overlays. So you just add to that visual and oral with an AU stimulation. And so those are the things that kind of make it into a more polished experience. And, it really respects the attendees' time and attention, that you recognize that there are a lot of things, especially at home, that they could be focused on or distracted by. And so that you're going to put out the extra effort to keep them engaged and to minimize the amount of time they have to kind of suffer through any kind of technical difficulties or slip ups by the presenter or anything like that.
Well, I think it goes back to working with your partner to say, or with your client to say, what kind of level of production are you looking for? And let us show you some good, better, best. Let us show you how we just put a nice frame around it and you don't have anything fancy. Or do you really want the Rolls Royce and do you want it to be fully produced like the Oscars? I heard a great quote, because I've been using the same term about we're now TV producers, and this guy that was on a panel challenged it and goes, no, you're not a TV producer, or you would be running 60 Minutes on CBS. Right? He's like, he was just challenging us to say, no, like these people have refined that skill of being a television producer for so long. But I do think that he agreed with the fact that think more like a TV producer in your engagement. Another thing that was interesting, I read and heard, I'm curious of your thoughts of this, about the virtual viewers experience when you're in a ballroom and you're in 500 seats back. The speaker's really small. Maybe you're using iMac, but the screen is really big, right? So you can see the content because you're in the space with the speaker, whereas they were saying it should be reverse in a device experience. When I'm viewing you as the speaker, Laurel, I want to see you as large as possible. Mm-hmm. And if you have some AV, it should be down in the lower, some corner off to the side, because I can always go back and look at the deck. But I don't know what the right word is, but the dimensions or the experience I'm having needs to be flipped on a device. I need to feel as close as possible to you as my partner that's speaking at the moment. And, we've seen shows, we've done shows where the speaker is a picture like this big in the very far corner. And then it's just this huge content heavy slide. And that worked when I sat in the back of a ballroom with 500 people and the two screens on either side were enormous and I could see his graph. Yeah. But now I'm taking this in like this, it needs to be more intimate, where I need to be able to see the speaker, to see does that ring true to you?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, you're absolutely right. In the virtual world, having that human connection as best as possible and that eye contact is what will keep you engaged. But I do think for us, best practice is sort of shifting between speaker and slide only. And so you're having that change in what your eye is perceiving, which is really important. And then it'll link also to the content so that if you have a slide that's very heavy with information, that could be full screen. So you're not kind of squinting to try and figure out, or, a graph or something like that.
Yeah.
And if it's something where you need to see the way that the speaker is looking or what kind of intonation they're making, so you can have it side by side. And that's much harder to do live, right? Because you're asking the V1 to kind of mind meld with the presenter in the moment. And so that's a much easier thing to pull off when you pre-record, but you can have the best of both worlds experience where your eye gets to focus on the thing that's important in that moment. And so that's what's cool about virtual is you can do that. You can have that shifting perspective, and, in person when you're sitting 500 seats back, that's the view you have.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I really hope that people take that away, which is what is the view for the virtual attendee, and how do you maximize that experience now that we have this virtual, tool to bring the speaker literally up to, one of our events we did, there was a rock star, very well-known speaker, and she was just hanging out on the floor in her guest room, and she was leaning up against, and she was talking about how she started her business. And I remember at that moment thinking you could never recreate this in a live event. If I was in this ballroom with her, I would never have this sense of intimacy with what she's talking about that is so insightful about her story. And she just seemed very casual. And, I just thought about all the stuffy years and years and years of events that we've done where there's someone in a tie on the stage. And, even on an iMag, you could see them, but they just felt like they were worlds away. Whereas now she just felt like she was in my office on my computer talking right at me. So I do think there's a lot of silver linings, and that's one of them, that ability to create a show that's super engaging and super intimate. It's made for me on my device, however big that is.
Right. I think that's so true. People will relax a little bit more when they're just presenting, into a camera where they're not seeing 1,000 people watching them back. I think that's a really good point. I think the downside of that is sometimes the energy gets a little bit low. And we always tell our presenters that they need to rehearse, and that then it's in their court to bring the energy. Our best microphone and our best lighting package isn't going to make you excited if you're not excited. So
I think it goes to the planners thinking about their presenters. There's been this whole conversation for years about subject matter experts being really obviously well-versed in a topic, but are they good entertainers? When you talk about putting on a show, are they entertainers in a way that they, speak clearly, they have high energy to keep people engaged? As I feel like many speakers on a live stage sounded like the Peanuts, classroom teacher. You just they just lull you to sleep with the same tone. And I really think that, investing in speaker training is important for big shows with keynoters. If you're investing, the professional speakers have done a good job at coming through the device, breaking that fourth wall. But some of these subject matter experts are, again, not comfortable with it. You and I were talking about that. We're event planners usually on the other side, but when you get on the camera, it's a different thing. You have to overcome that nerve and just seeing yourself and it's interesting to me. I think lighting is one of my biggest peeves. Even if you test it, I just feel like these people, I'm like, what are you looking at? You can see yourself. You have a halo of natural light above your head, and I can't see your face. Do you have a lamp or something somewhere you can put in the front of you? They're selling these really cool clip-on lights. That's been a really awesome speaker gift that we've given, which just clips on so that any meeting they're doing, Zoom or anything, they have that front lighting that will help them. So